Good day, my name is Mark Malore. I'm an attorney here in Riverside, California. I got a number of clients in Desert Hot Springs dealing with corporate setups and LLC formation. And I thought it helpful to give you a few pieces of advice that I like to give clients that come to visit me when setting these entities up. The first piece of advice I'm going to give you is you want to see a CPA or an accountant that deals with your taxes to determine what the best entity is for your particular business enterprise. They can be taxed differently. Each of those entities can be taxed differently. So you want to make sure for your particular business and the volume of work you're going to be doing in terms of dollars that you're taxed most beneficially, because that's one of the advantages of setting up a business entity, the tax advantages that you gain from doing so. The second thing that we look at in terms of tax advantages is what type of entity do we need to form. With corporations, we look at whether we're going to form a C corporation or S corporation, for example. Limited liability company is membership shares holders, so it's taxed much like a partnership. An S corporation is taxed much like a partnership, even though treated as a corporation by the IRS. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have an S corporation, you will usually file a K-1 with your 1040 return, and that will be taxed much like a partnership, meaning that once the corporation gets the assets and expenses those out with its various expenses, salaries and overhead and so forth, then what's remaining gets devolved to the shareholder, and the shareholder pays taxes on that singularly. A C corporation is treated a little bit differently, not like a partnership, but much like a regular corporation, where the corporation receives its inflow of receipts, it's taxed on that total receipt value, and then expenses it out, and then whatever is left over goes to the shareholder, and the shareholder is taxed on that amount a second time. So hence you get a double taxation with a C corporation. Now, some of the advantages with a C corporation are that you can be a corporate shareholder. Unlike an S corporation, you can't be a corporate shareholder. You have to be an individual, and in some limited cases, a trust and so forth. There are some exceptions, but very limited circumstances for those. Next, and secondarily on that point, you're limited to the number of shareholders you can have in an S corporation. An S corporation is limited to 500 shareholders. There is no limitation on C corporation. And then, of course, the dual taxation versus singular taxation that I spoke of earlier. So those are some of the distinctions between C Corp and S Corp. And obviously an LLC is just taxed much like a partnership, and you've got membership shareholders as a result, so not much difference there. So we look to see then what is the liability protection we get from forming this business entity. Regardless of what your business is, in this litigious society, everyone sues anyone for anything. Doesn't make it right, but sometimes that just happens. There are litigious people out there. So we set up a corporate entity or a limited liability company entity to protect the individual and the individual's assets from lawsuit liability. This will go a step beyond your insurance coverage for such liability and protect and insulate you from having any of your things like houses, cars, bank accounts, personal bank accounts attachable under any subsequent lawsuit filed by a disgruntled customer or someone like that. So those are some of the issues that you face when setting up a entity, a business entity. I want you to think about those. If you have any other questions or particular circumstances that you're facing, feel free to give my office a call. I'll be happy to sit down with you and go over your particular circumstances.